Kamala Harris has been consistently more popular in the polls than Donald Trump is. She's consistently had a higher net favorable rating than Donald Trump. And normally, usually, the candidate who's more popular goes on to win on Election Day.
Democrats are fond of that saying, forget the polls, when we vote, we win.
Yes.
And you see something in that.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the special elections, right? Democrats in special elections, their performances the last 2 years. What has happened? We're looking at state legislative and federal special elections. On average, these Democrats have surpassed Joe Biden's 2020 margin by 2 points. By 2 points. And remember, Joe Biden won. So the fact that these Democrats have been doing better than Joe Biden's been doing is a good sign. Historically speaking, there is correlation between how folks do in the special elections, especially in this polarized era, and how folks do eventually in the presidential election. It was actually one of the warning signs last time around in 2020, where Democrats really weren't doing that great in special elections, despite the polls saying that Joe Biden was going to win rather easily. It suggested Trump would do better on Election Day. This time around, the special elections are suggesting the opposite, that in fact Joe Biden, because Democrats have been exceeding Joe Biden's margin, that maybe Democrats will actually do better than the polls have been indicating.
Kamala Harris's lead over Trump has been solidified by polls consistently showing her as the more favorable candidate, with special elections only adding to her momentum. This optimism among Democrats points to a potentially decisive election, but Harris's edge goes beyond a single metric, capturing the confidence of many demographics, especially in key states that could seal her victory.
We are unveiling a new CNN poll from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. David Chalian is where else at the Magic Wall to break it all down. David?
3 polls for you today, Dana. Yes, these are our final set of Battleground state polls, and today we're focusing on those blue wall states. Take a look at the overall numbers among likely voters in Pennsylvania. Dead heat tie, 48% to 48% in the biggest electoral college vote prize of the Battleground map. In Michigan, slight edge for Kamala Harris, 48% to 43%. In Wisconsin, we also see a slight edge for Harris, 51% to 45%.
These numbers show that Harris's support isn't just limited to national polls, but is also strong in the states, crucial to her path to victory. Despite the overall close race, her consistent edge across key demographics reveals a notable gender divide. Harris is outperforming Trump significantly with women, giving her an advantage across the blue wall states.
Trump is up 12 with men, Harris up 21 points with women in our poll. That's certainly helping her there. The gender gap's helping her in Michigan. Men are tied between the two candidates in Michigan in our poll, whereas Harris has an 8-point advantage with female voters in Michigan.
The Harris campaign has embraced this support from female voters, building her platform on policies that resonate strongly with them, such as healthcare and childcare reform. In addition to her appeal with women, Harris's popularity among African-American voters has also been noteworthy, although some polling data suggests there's room for improvement in places like Pennsylvania.
In our poll among likely voters in Michigan, Harris has a 71-point advantage among African-American voters over Donald Trump. Joe Biden in Michigan 4 years ago, according to the exit polls, won the African-American vote in Michigan by 85 percentage points. So a little bit underperformance there in this poll, but much more dramatically in Pennsylvania. Harris's lead with African-Americans among likely African-American voters in Pennsylvania in our poll is 55 percentage points over Trump. Biden in 2020 in the exit polls won African-American voters in Pennsylvania by 85 percentage points.
While Harris's support among African Americans may not reach Biden's 2020 levels, it remains a significant factor in her appeal. Harris's reputation for honesty and trustworthiness has also helped secure her position as the candidate more aligned with voters' interests. This perception of Harris as a trustworthy figure is an advantage she holds over Trump in critical battleground states.
Clearly, Harris's best mark across all 3 of these battleground states is that voters see her far more as honest and trustworthy than they do Donald Trump. But I would look at these next 2 categories. Cares about people like you, puts country ahead of self. I think these 2 categories were the point of her closing argument speech last night on the ellipse. And those categories are working for her.
Harris's campaign focuses on her ability to connect with the average American, emphasizing her values of empathy and inclusivity. Her approach has won her support in both urban and suburban areas. This is crucial in states like Nevada, where a stark urban-rural divide could make a major difference in the outcome.
Need to do well in Clark County. You can see Joe Biden edged Donald Trump there 54% to 44%. It may not look like a huge margin, but he was able to bank a surplus of about 90,000 votes from Las Vegas and Clark County, and he needed them. Why? Because you look around at the rural counties, look at the margins that Donald Trump had. 84%, 78%, 76%, 75%, just huge margins in the rural. So he banks thousands and thousands of votes in all these rural counties that need to be offset by Clark County. Now, there is one swing county in Nevada, and that's Washoe County, out where Reno is. You can see the margins here are very, very tight. Typically, as Washoe goes, so goes Nevada. Joe Biden won it. 2016, Hillary Clinton won it. And just one thing I want to show you, Nevada's not big, not a lot of votes, so you're fighting over the same votes, and elections can look pretty similar.
In these urban regions, Harris has bolstered her support through early voting efforts and targeted outreach. However, in states like Wisconsin, Harris has been met with a diverse range of perspectives as voters there weigh economic considerations heavily. In Waukesha County, for instance, Trump remains a strong contender due to his economic policies appealing to local business owners.
Adrian Deasy is the founder and CEO.
This is all of the robotics.
He grew up in a Democratic household, voted twice for Barack Obama, moved to the Milwaukee suburbs a decade ago.
Toppings, cold foams.
A self-described moderate ready to vote a third time for Donald Trump.
I just see that Donald Trump, from a business-minded standpoint, from a let's make a deal standpoint, and from an economics and financing perspective, I think he's got the right mindset for how the country should be run, how to support small and medium-sized businesses.
As her campaign narrative centers on upholding democratic principles, Harris's favorability with voters concerned about national stability continues to strengthen. Harry Enton's data analysis also hints at the potential for a substantial victory, as polling errors could lead to a blowout in the Electoral College.
That the winner of this election gets at least 300 electoral votes versus just a 40% chance that the winner ends up getting less than 300 electoral votes. So for all the talk that we've had about this election being historically close, which it is, chances are the winner will still actually score a relative blowout in the Electoral College.
Oh my God, you're making my hair hurt. Boom! How can it be that it's so close, but yet still more likely than not that it's a fairly big victory in the Electoral College?
Yeah, so let's take a look at that polling average, all right? So if you look across the 7 key swing states, the 7 closest states, in all of them, the margin right now is under 2 points, under 2 points. But keep in mind, polling ain't perfect, my dear friends. On average, since 1972, in the battleground states, in the key swing states, the average error in the key swing states is 3.4 points. So if all of the battleground states go in one direction, you can end up with a map like this for Kamala Harris, where she wins all the key Great Lake battleground states, wins North Carolina, wins Georgia, wins Arizona, wins Nevada, and she gets to 390.
This projection reflects the Harris campaign's successful outreach efforts in swing states and her consistent popularity advantage. Enton's analysis underscores that even though the national polls are close, the likelihood of Harris securing a commanding lead in the Electoral College has increased as Election Day approaches. For Democrats, the path to victory feels more secure with each analysis, pointing to Harris's favorability and key demographic support.
And CNN's Nia Malika Henderson, Politico's Meredith McGraw. David is coming to the table. We'll be here momentarily. Nia, what's your takeaway from these?
Listen, the only poll that matters is the one on Election Day. But
I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah, I just coined it just now. Listen, we'll see what happens. You could tell the work that Kamala Harris needed to do last night, arguing that she's the candidate for change, arguing that she would restore sort of normalcy and decorum and unity in the White House. And you saw her make that implicit comparison. There she was at the ellipse where Donald Trump, of course, invoked his mob to attack the Capitol, and her essentially saying she's going to restore American traditions around inclusivity and around democracy, strong speech, and with an eye towards particularly undecided voters in those swing states, which are a sliver, about 5% at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't know where David is. Where's David?
He's coming. He's coming.
Good.
He got a little. No, he'll be here in 1 second. Yes, it is a sliver of the undecided voters. Let's look at the choice for president. now versus August in these 3 states.
As we look at the data from recent special elections and consider the enthusiasm surrounding early voting, it's clear that Harris's campaign has strong momentum. Her broad appeal across key demographics, her edge in favorability ratings, and her commitment to unity and integrity have set the stage for a potential Democratic victory. Will Harris's popularity translate into an overwhelming win, or will the race tighten as the final votes come in? This election could prove to be historic.